I played the Homeworld demo over 20 years ago. I don't remember where we got it from, but I remember loving it. Then I forgot about the game, despite my older brother actually buying it, deciding to focus my time and attention on RuneScape, Pokemon, and putting too much gel in my hair, which was the style at the time. But now in 2023, I finally finished it. Well, the remastered version anyway. And in this video, I'm going to tell you what I think about the game. So stick around if you want to hear the opinion of a random guy on YouTube. But let's start with the story. Let me give you a quick summary of the premise. Obviously, there's going to be some spoilers for the early game, so feel free to skip ahead if you don't want to hear anything. The game starts with an old crashed spaceship being found in the desert. In the ruins of that ship, they find this ancient map which tells them of their home planet. A planet called Higara. Their home planet, their home world. Get it? Homeworld? Clever, clever. The discovery unites the whole planet, and these guys decide to spend the next 60 years building a colony ship to go over there and check it out. A lady called Karen decides to hook herself up to the mothership like the Matrix. Fun fact, Homeworld and the Matrix were both released in 1999. Apparently a very popular year for the theme of hooking yourself up to machinery. Perhaps a link to the growing use of something called the internet, but who knows. Anyway, Karen hooks herself up to the mothership and now she basically controls everything. She's fleet command. So they're preparing to go on this journey and they begin by testing out their new hyperdrive technology, which will make the journey a lot quicker. And the plan for the first test is to meet up with a support vessel, which has been slowly chugging away for the last 10 years using non-hyperspace drive technology. Except, when they get there, the support vessel is all busted up and the mothership comes under attack. So they fight the enemies and they jump back to their home planet, the old one, not the one they're actually looking for, and...
Repair Corvette complete. No one's left. Everything's gone. Karak is burning.
Karak is being consumed by a firestorm. The scaffold has been destroyed. All orbital facilities destroyed.
It's all gone. The entire planet's been wiped out. So the mothership is basically all that's left of the entire race. With nowhere to go back to, they might as well try to get to the new homeworld. So that's what they do. And that's the introduction in a nutshell. Unlike in this video, the story in Homeworld is wonderfully told. The main cutscenes are great, the in-game cutscenes are great, both incredibly cinematic. Although I do remember one in-game cutscene dragging on for far too long. For the most part, it's incredible. The story isn't too complicated and there aren't too many twists and turns, but one of the best things that Homeworld story does is give you that experience of discovery. This is a universe that these people have not yet explored. They don't know any of the diplomacy involved or the history, and it's fascinating for you as the player to piece together the snippets of information and lore in the same way that these people would have on their journey to Higara. But because the story delivery was excellent and the universe was so interesting, I think my expectations for the main story must have been set unrealistically high, because to me, the storyline felt a bit blah. It felt a bit cliched and it was just straight out unrealistic at times, particularly towards the end of the game. That's not to say the story is bad, I just think that it didn't match up to the standards of the rest of the game. I remember thinking at times, why are these guys so weak all of a sudden? Didn't they just destroy a whole planet earlier? And who on earth signed off on this stupid plan? Are these guys incompetent?
Sir, the enemy are coming. Should we, with our immense resources of our gigantic empire, amass the biggest defense fleet ever seen? Nah, let's stick a couple of boosters onto that rocket and call it a day.
Now, I'm being overly critical here. I did still enjoy the story. Surprisingly much more in the early and middle of the game rather than the end. It is a decent length, the pacing is good, it never felt dragged out. I just wish the story quality from the first 2/3 of the game was maintained through to the end. I was really rooting for this game to be amazing, but the story just lacked the depth to make it a true classic, which is a shame. But having said all of that though, I still want to play Homeworld 2. So clearly it was good enough. But that's enough about the story, let's talk about the gameplay. And let me start with the good stuff. I had a lot of fun playing Homeworld. That's what video games are all about, right? And what's there not to love about spaceship battles? Now the strange thing is that I'm pretty sure that most of you watching already know about the game, right? Way more than me probably. But for anyone who doesn't know, in Homeworld, you have to take control of a mothership in space and create a fleet of spaceships to blow up the bad guys. I mean, that's basically the whole game. And one of the primary challenges to doing this effectively is managing your fleet composition. And there are so many different types of ship. It can be a bit daunting at first, with the difficulty curve being quite high. But the game does a decent job of telling you each ship's strengths and weaknesses, so you'll eventually get there. Quite a few ships are just not worth building at all for the story. They might be useful in multiplayer, I don't know, but a ton of them I never built once. And confusingly, the game does throw out these loose terms like strike craft and capital ships. These don't actually line up with your build menu, so sometimes times I had no idea what the game was actually telling me. And that was a bit silly, I think. Maybe they explained it in the original manual for the game, but it's just not helpful to use those terms in the remastered version. Now, talking about the build menu, another criticism I have is with the UI. It's a small point, but I kept having to resize the windows. I was playing in 4K and they were just a bit too cramped. It was a bit annoying, but nothing crazy, so let's move on. Anyway, so you have to build some ships, and the game caps how many of each type of ship you can build. And depending on the enemy's fleet, you may want to rejig your composition per map. And I learned way too late in the game that you can retire ships and get some credits back. I'll touch upon some of the limitations there more in a sec, but basically you have to constantly change how your fleet looks. And these unit caps aren't humongous. They make more sense given how old the game is, but battles would have looked way more amazing if they tripled the cap. But the game looks great enough as it is. You can also use some tactics and formations for each of your ships. I never messed around with these too much, especially the formations. I mostly kept all of my ships on aggressive except when I wanted to micromanage. As soon as you want to move your ships, you discover what I think is the worst thing about Homeworld: the camera. I hated the camera. It never seemed to go where I wanted it to. I spent the vast majority of the game in the tactical view because of it, and that sucks, because it means I missed out on all the cool looking stuff. And with no WASD controls, I kept telling my ships to dock by accident. Now the reason the camera sucks is because they wanted to introduce a really cool feature: a 3D map. And massive kudos for that, especially in 1999. But the movement sucks. You have to deal with this whole other axis. It's super clunky to use. Most of the time, I struggle to move my ships where I wanted them to on a 3D plane. And there's this one mission where you have to be really careful on the route you take. I hated that mission because of it. What's even worse is that I didn't know there was a pause button until the last mission of the game. So that's on me, but I was messing around with all this movement in real time, and it was an absolute nightmare. But very cool idea to have a 3D map, so I'll give Homeworld a pass this time. Okay, back to the rest of the game. In order to build ships, you need resources, and you send out your resource collectors to go get them. What's a bit different with Homeworld though, is that your resources carry over to the next mission. So it kind of gives you this hoard mentality where you don't want to overspend just in case you don't have enough for the next mission. It is a bit annoying, but makes total sense in keeping with the story. Because of this though, I, along with I imagine most other players, discovered the power of salvage corvettes. So if you've got these salvage ships, you can go out and steal the enemy ships with no cost to yourself, and it allows you to go over the ship cap. Amazing, right? So that's what I ended up doing, which became a bit frustrating later because it meant that I spent most of the game just waiting around, kiting big ships, sending salvage corvettes to go grab them, and then waiting for them to bring them back to the mothership. Now, I don't know who came up with this, but this is saying, given the opportunity, players will optimize the fun out of a game. And it's so true in this case. If I played again, no way would I play like this. In fact, it messed me up towards the end of the game because of difficulty scaling. So the game will basically scale up the enemy's size depending on your fleet. If your fleet is bigger or more expensive, then the size of the enemy's fleet will just keep getting bigger and bigger and stronger. But also my fleet composition was basically just being filled up with destroyers and iron cannon frigates. And by the second last mission, I got wrecked because of it. So I had to go back one mission before that, retire a bunch of ships, rebuild new ones, and keep the fleet size modest. But you can't retire enemy ships the same mission as you salvage them, which makes zero sense to me. So I ended up basically sending them on suicide missions. But it all did work out in the end. I did complete the game. Look, at the end of the day, I really enjoyed playing Homeworld, despite all of the criticisms I just laid out. Space battles are amazing. A lot of the missions in Homeworld are actually quite unique too. You do have to micromanage a fair bit, but it was really enjoyable to play. If they just sorted out the camera, honestly, it would have made this game amazing. Because this game looks great, and that's what I want to talk about next. Honestly, Homeworld is stunning. The ship designs, the battles all look fantastic. There's a bunch of options too for the visuals, including battle scars, and the attention to detail here is just top notch. I really just loved zooming in on ships, even if they weren't doing anything exciting. I remember it looking good 20 years ago, and in the remastered version, they just kept it looking crisp. The cutscenes look great too, and they're incredibly cinematic. It's just an awesome looking game. Other than the camera, I basically have no criticisms on how this game is presented visually. Now moving on to the audio, boy is the soundtrack amazing. The music just makes everything in the game 10 times more exciting. And when something tragic happens, man, the choral music makes it hit hard. The voice acting is top notch too, with some exceptions. All the battles sound really great, even though noise doesn't technically travel through space, the audio just makes it sound all the more epic. You hear people talking over the radio or however it is they talk in space. Sometimes it's just regular mundane stuff like expect delays, or actual panic like taking heavy fire, where's our escort? It's all so immersive. And then there's Karen in the mothership. Every time you hear frigate lost or group 3 defeated. Even though it's such a neutral tone, it somehow becomes really personal. It really hurts when you hear it. So taking Homeworld's great visuals and excellent audio, what you get is Homeworld's biggest strength. Everything in this game is presented so well. It's such a beautiful game. If only for that goddamn camera, this would have been perfect. But let's wrap this up. In conclusion, I really enjoyed my time with Homeworld, and hopefully it won't take me another 20 years to finish Homeworld 2. Homeworld's set in a fascinating universe and has a decent story, even though it doesn't quite reach the heights I was hoping for. It was incredibly ambitious for them to try and make a 3D map, and I want to applaud the devs for trying, but ultimately it was a bit of an own goal, since the camera and movement ended up being incredibly frustrating because of it. The gameplay was solid and enjoyable, a little exploitable but not too much, and the remastered version is absolutely gorgeous with amazing music and voice acting. I got it for free the same week I started this YouTube channel, so like 2 months ago, so sorry for the wait for the review. But if you have it in your library and are wondering whether you should actually play it, I can easily say it's worth a try. And if you haven't got it for free, I've seen CD keys for like £1.50 for the whole remastered collection. I haven't even played Homeworld 2 yet, and I can easily tell you at that price just Homeworld 1 remastered is worth it. Never mind both games bundled. So if you're thinking of buying it, do not even hesitate at that price. And now it's the end of the video. Please like and subscribe. I'm going to leave you with some footage of me salvaging a transit ship and then something unexpected happens. Thanks for watching.
Pursuing targets.
Tidan fleet destroyed. Hyperspace coordinates locked in.
Roger. Strike group to battle positions. Pursuing targets. Copy. Attack vector laid in. Reporting. Strike group attack order confirmed. Light fire confirmed. Group 1 reporting. Strike group under enemy attack. Attack vector laid in.